On this installment of Creative Cabin Fever, I travel to Belfast. It's a Wednesday morning. I'm not used to doing interviews midweek. Voodoo Chief, how are we this morning?
Hello,
Hello.
good morning. We are amazing and we are very tired because we don't wake up normally at this time of day. So,
No.
no, we're very much sleep into 1 p.m. kind of people. So that we're very refreshed, let's say. So
That's all good. We had our coffees, we had our boosts, we're ready to
yeah,
go.
we had our energy drinks. We're ready. We're pumped as always.
Yeah, look, this Wednesday morning kind of didn't go the way any of us expected, but we're here and we're going to do an interview and we're going to get everyone to know who Voodoo Chief are. So, you recently released a track called You Should. What was it like for you guys releasing in lockdown?
Okay. That is, yes, that
It
was
had its issues, I would say.
it had its major issues, especially with Sam, who you can see is not here as we are a free piece. Bart on bass, me on guitar and vocals, and Sam on drums. Sam lives in Lisburn, unfortunately, and like the small little smidgen in his personal life, his brother was high risk, as you would say, to COVID, so he couldn't come over. So the very first almost like 8 9 months of COVID, we didn't see each other as a complete band. I live with Bart, so me and Bart, we can go into each other's rooms or we can go into the studio that we have in the house and just jam out and write new songs. But Sam's being left behind,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until recently, the past, say, about 4 or 5 months, that he kind of started to come over. And he had to wear a face mask. He had to be safe, and then we got "You Should" recorded.
Oh, but when he did came over,
Yeah,
it was
it was
it was
very good.
some it was some because it we did kind of build up all that because we wanted to proceed stuff as a band. So as soon as we just got together and got into practice, we just exploded with ideas,
Yeah,
and it was amazing.
not just with like "You Should," but after recording "You Should," but we just kept writing more and more songs because we had so much creative energy built up after being almost trapped and being put on mute, pardon the pun, for the past almost, say, 12 to 13 months. And not only that, when it came to "You Should" and getting it recorded here at Tribal King Studios, we had to then send it off to someone to help us mix and master it.
Mm.
Thankfully enough, a guy we contacted called Daniel James Keown,
Which is an absolute legend.
yeah, who did an amazing job. He had, like, this is all very technical stuff, but he all had the same plugins and whatnot for the DAWs that we were using, that Bart was using, because that's an area of music that I don't divulge into. I just write songs and play guitar and write chords and good stuff like that, while Bart likes to produce stuff.
So it was me going in between Daniel and you guys just
Yeah.
explaining stuff. It was like from human to engineer.
to music engineer language. So that came across as a difficulty, but thankfully it wasn't, because Daniel had most of the same technology. So sending it off to him was pretty easy enough. But the first few months of "You Should" being recorded, because we released a video saying, oh yeah, we've got it recorded. But then there was a big gap for the actual promo because we had to find someone to bloody mix and master it.
Yeah.
And when we finally did, we were like, right, it's go time. Get the artwork done, get all the promo done, get all the contacts, and let's get going.
So, what was
Uh,
the turnaround for that then, if you don't mind my asking? So, from video announcing that there's a track to actually getting all that done to then getting the artwork and the release of the song, like what kind of time frame are you looking at?
so in about a week, and it's mainly Bart handles the majority of the production side, but say being in lockdown, because you have less contact with most of these people, it's all very much up to you. It's very personal. It's This year has kind of been the year of like the independent artist, do it all yourself,
Yeah.
getting all that promo work done all by yourself, and I really had to flex my freaking brain. Sorry, I'm not gonna curse, because
You can curse.
I had to get all these contacts, had to get all these playlists, had to get the artwork done, had to get all our social media.
This man got no rest either.
I literally every
inside out.
day Bart would be coming in. I'd be on my laptop. I'd be on my phone drinking a coffee or something like that, just looking like a stereotypical promo manager, trying to get everything done. So once we had it mixed and mastered and we got the artwork and we got the ad and the promo video done, it was just non-stop every day. and that's kind of a difficulty because you can't really well plan stuff nowadays. Is that English? Yes. You can't plan stuff as well as you would do if you were able to see people and able to communicate with people better. But with everything being online, it's a lot harder because there's kind of a middleman there with sending emails off or sending messages off
Mm.
rather than just meeting up. Like normally you would just meet up with a photographer, normally you would just meet up with an artist and just have a coffee with them and talk about it. But rather it's you send them a message and you wait for the response about 4 or 5 hours later. As well as that, there's one big thing that, and a lot of people go on about it, especially promo wise, releasing a song that
Oh, a
I've seen
cat.
with
Sorry.
oh with
Em is the mascot of the house.
Yeah. with a lot of bands kind of say this and it's kind of stereotypical, but it's very true. Having gigs is a form of promotion. Not only is it great to get gigs out there and kind of show off your stuff and flex your musical talent live and show what you can bring to the table as listening to something live rather than recorded is a completely different energy, but it helps you get your name out there, go to different places within your local scene and start spreading out your name. But with that being taken away, there's not much else for us to do rather than just making posts on social media. Live streaming it is a good alternative, but it costs quite a lot.
And we tried to get live streaming going from doing podcasts and stuff like that, even for my studio here in Voodoo Chief, but it just seems to be very costly.
Yeah,
in general,
and costly, literally financially wise, and then costly time wise because the amount of time you need to put in to make your own artwork and give your own bio and set up the website. Literally, Bart set up the website for Tribal King Studios, and he's got a bunch of podcasts that you've got recorded.
Yeah.
From a bunch of different artists that have came through here. One of which was John Quinn, and there's a podcast of him up on the website.
Who was actually here yesterday? Well, today.
Yeah, technically today. Didn't leave in the early hours of the morning, but it's been very difficult to kind of even create rather than just release music in lockdown, especially as I've already said, Sam having a difficulty to get over here, even today, even for the interview. So there is a lot of obstacles that come up.
Yeah, it's about changing the format in which you do things like content and in which you release, and it's kind of really training you to see the world differently. Do you know what I mean? But so one of the great things about gigs is they do actually allow you to hone your craft. So I'd like to know how both yourself and Bart found your craft. So what was the initial thing that made you guys musicians?
We're going back.
Oh,
Okay, right.
back.
Because once I start, I'm a Pringles can. Once I pop, I can't stop.
Well, my thing was I didn't actually start making music. I was actually into breakdancing, which is where my heavy origins from hip hop come from, because it's a really rich hip hop culture.
Yeah.
And breakdancing originates from just deep back from 70s, 80s. So there was me listening to old school hip hop while also being a stepson to
this is
a guy. Yeah, my stepdad is also a guitarist for one of the most popular band in Poland called Acid Drinkers. That big that it's their singer is literally the X Factor jury, and all just
one of the X Factor judges in X Factor. Yeah, like he literally turned around to me, and he had this T-shirt on the first time I met him in college, and he was wearing his Acid Drinkers tank top. And I looked at him and was like, "Who's that band?" And he was like, "That's my stepdad's band." And I'm like, "Oh, it's probably just a small local band."
Nah.
Millions of views on YouTube.
He has like a Polish equivalent he has a Polish equivalent of a Grammy sitting on a shelf, like all dusty. He doesn't give a fuck about it. Like, and then there's my friends just coming in there. I was like, "Is that?"
Yeah. So
there was me listening to him recording metal, and I grew to the point that I despised like rock music and metal. And then here's me just fucking loving it.
Yeah, especially with like you really got into bass playing because you loved like that heavy, dirty, funky bass from like old school boom bop and stuff like that.
So I wanted to be a hip hop bassist, but the more I started playing, the more like I opened my eyes into more, progressive genres like jazz, indie, rock, then heavy metal,
Yeah.
even hip hop as well, and I just love it all.
Yeah.
Even bought a sax recently as well, because
Why not?
Because why not?
Um, so there's like Bart's style of playing, which is like more funky and hip hop based, which is more groovy. Especially he likes to. You're a slap player as well.
Mm.
With me, oh, I'm wired. I am so weird with my guitar playing. I must have been about 11 years old when I first picked up a guitar. I'm 21 now, so it's about 10, 11 years of straight playing. I've been in an Irish traditional group when I was younger and toured around, well, didn't tour, but went around America with them, with my Irish traditional group, and we played like parades and stuff and different gigs at bars and whatnot. Then I played in a jazz band, and we played in boombox and stuff like that. And then I played in a blues band, and the music I was listening to was very indicative of that. It was very like it went along with what I was already playing, because the first kind of music I listened to, the first album I ever bought was AC/DC Live, and I must have been 12 years old. No, I was 10 years old, because I remember being in primary school and we got to bring a CD in to show it off to the class and play one track in the computer. And all these kids.
Wait, why your teachers did that?
Yes, all these kids are like, there was one girl brought Katy Perry in, there was one guy brought like Tiny Tempa in, and then me bringing the AC/DC Live blasting Hell's Bells in like this P7 classroom.
Yes.
And my P7 teacher was like, yo, Patrick, give me that. And he plays his own AC/DC track because he loves AC/DC too. And then my dad got me into like Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones, all the classic rock. My mom was very much into her kind of mod, which is a weird genre of 80s music, 70s and 80s music, and growing up around that style. And then my oldest sister was in the punk. My other sister was in like more R&B. So I grew up in a very musical household, but no one really played musical instruments. So when I started to pick it up, I was playing about 2 years in the just an electric guitar. Didn't even have an acoustic yet. My dad played one song for me, and he played "Oh Well Part One" by Fleetwood Mac, and I don't know if you know that. And he said if you could learn how to play that, I would be blown away. And that style of playing, and then also like Led Zeppelin riffs, I fell in love with, because I know guitar players that can shred, that can play up all and down the neck, which I can kind of do. I can kind of rip out a solo, but the thing I love doing the most is just figuring out a riff. It may be like a 10-second riff of a verse, but just something that will bring someone back, a hook, something that's catchy, something that you can dance to. And having a blues background, having an Irish traditional background, having a jazz background, I just had this idea of making it weird. I was around about 16 when I wrote my first song, and my first song I wrote was "You Should." "You Should" is about 5 years old. It's a 5-year-old song that I wrote when I was 16, and had nothing to do with it.
Until he met me and Sam.
Until I met him and Sam, and this whole different style of just combining styles. I kind of said to my guitar teacher at the time, Paul Tierney, and he was teaching me how to write songs. I said to him, I was like, I want to make just weird riffs and weird shit that you've never heard before, just for the point of it being weird. And he kind of looked at me and he was like, that's just reductive. You're just trying to be weird and just limiting what you can do. But I wanted to be weird and catchy at the same time. That he would even like look at me like this young 16-year-old kid and be like, all right, okay, just nod. And I was like, okay, maybe you've got something there. To the point that even when I went to tech, he contacted the teacher that he knew, and this teacher turned around to me, Connor McCauley, the drummer of New Pagans, which my guitar teacher knew. Paul Tierney contacted him, walked into the classroom, and Connor turned around to me and said like, are you Patrick Dorian? And I'm like, yeah. And he was like, oh yeah, Paul Tierney sent me an email, said to look out for you because you're weird and one to look out for. And I'm like, and I literally whip out my acoustic guitar, and he's like, all right, strums it. And he's like, what have you done to this? I'm like, oh, it's an open C minor. Sorry, it's a weird tuning. And he's just looking at me like, you're mental. You're nuts. Do you ever just play in standard or just play just C, E minor, D chords? Open? No, I have to be weird as fuck, right? That's the only time I'm gonna curse. And anytime I just sit in my room and write a riff, either inspired by like Stevie Ray Vaughan style playing, mixed with like trad rhythms and trad scales, mixed with like jazz chords, and then just a sprinkle of Queens of Stone Age, which I'm obsessed with.
anytime he storms into my room with a guitar, just like fart, I'm like, then whips out the progression. I'm like, what the fuck have you done?
Yeah, like how have you done this? And then with Sam, and I'll happily speak for Sam here. Sam is very much like us as well, with a very wide mix of genres. Like he comes from more like modern classic rock, with like the stuff like Foo Fighters and AC/DC. But he also has an amazing pocket, and a pocket is just a groove that a drummer can get into. And he is, we have a joke, an inside joke, that we call him a robot
because he's so tight and he's always.
It's inhuman.
And also
Yeah, because he just lays down the groove, and we're looking at him like, you haven't missed a beat. Like there's even slight human error where you can go slightly off tempo, but this man doesn't. And with his like rock funk style grooves mixed with my riffs and mixed with his like hip hop bass lines, we just create the weirdest, funkiest, heaviest music.
I think the nice thing to mention about Sam is he has sent us like 10 different riffs of his own.
Yeah, because he plays guitar and bass too.
Yeah, so
yeah, like we're all multi-instrumentalists, just constantly creating and writing music. And even when Voodoo Chief first formed, Sam wasn't in the band yet because he was dealing with other musical affairs. And it was just me and Bart, and we were in the studio in the OES Center. And I was like, right, okay, let's do this. Let's just write a song. Let's write a rock song. We didn't even have a name of a band. And we put on a backing track.
I would say I couldn't even play bass at that point.
Yeah. We put on a backing track on his iPad, plugged it into the PA system, and had a drum backing track and wrote a song to it, which was actually fire. And then when Sam came in, we thought, okay, right, we have to adjust to him and not to our old band member iPad, a fucking Apple iPad. And then Sam came in, he just slid right in like a puzzle piece. And he just started playing, and especially with You Should, there's such a funny story behind that, because the riff that I have, it goes da 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 da, and that's like the start of the riff. And then Sam was like, oh yeah, that's a cool riff. I have another riff, by the way, for on drums. And he goes dun 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 dun. And we just kind of stopped for a second, looked at each other, and we're like, wait a minute, we'll play what you just played again against what I played. And like every single song that we write is almost accidental.
Yeah.
But it just works so much.
That's amazing. Like that's great that you're so cohesive in everything, that your mind hive is just working together without you even knowing. That's what you need. Like you need that creative verve to be interconnected so that it makes things in an easy linear manner. And like I think that's amazing that song is technically like 6 years old. And one of the things that stood out to me, which is weird because I didn't have this conversation with any of you beforehand, is actually the filthy hip-hop-esque bass. Do you know what I mean? So that is just, it's mental. Like that those are the things I'd pick up on even though I've never met you. Do you know? That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
But this is one thing that we were surprised about ourselves as well, if I can say that. But we actually managed to make it work somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Which we're like, why does it work? It shouldn't work.
It
does.
Work. Like we have a song, which we should be saying this because the release has went so well, and we've kind of made a name for ourselves within the Belfast scene. That's all we kind of wanted to do. We are all in love with how the song sounds, even if it doesn't break 1,000 streams because we're not well known. But even at this point that everyone in Belfast has kind of turned around and knows us now, the next stuff that we release, because we're not going to stop. We have like 15, 16 riffs that don't even have a structure yet. Never mind the actual songs do have a structure. There's even one that's called Devil's Punch Bowl, which we're not going to get into, which was originally called Odd Free. And the reason why is that I love Irish trad, as I've mentioned already before, as I won't fucking shut up about it. But there's this weird rhythm called Irish Slipjig, which is 9/8. It's 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. And it's this 9/8 odd time signature. And Sam hates odd time signatures, and he wouldn't play around it. And it took me a fucking year until I turned around and said to him, play swung 3/4. Just 1 2 3 1 2 3. Just do that for us. And he played along to it, and I played the riff, and we were like, we just made an Irish slipjig metal song with like a hip hop style bass that's like progressive metal. We were just looking at each other like, but it works. Like we don't hold ourselves down to one genre.
No.
And you
Like
shouldn't. I think we should all be striving to be our own selves. And like that's what
yeah,
makes everyone magic. Like if everyone's copying everyone, like
yeah,
Yeah, but this is every time we have a practice, like something different comes out. Like we do stick to some general consensus of hard rock,
yeah.
metal,
What our sound is.
but
Yeah.
there is funk, there is jazz, there is
Irish
hip hop, Irish, there is
blues.
blues.
Yes.
We're really heavily inspired by blues.
Yeah, very much.
And then
yeah.
we're like, I think who was it who asked us like what genre are we? Whenever
Yeah,
we
I was
played a
literally
gig?
just about to say this.
Yeah.
We had a gig at Battle of Bands around about our first year starting before all the venues got closed. One of the gigs that we had was a pavilion in Belfast.
It was the Battle of the Bands.
Battle of the
yeah.
Bands, and it was the heats, and we got through the heats, and we got in the semi-finals. We were playing with Bearskin, a few other bands, and Bearskin who are broken up now.
Blackout Season as well.
Blackout Season,
Yeah.
who's a great band as well. Phil McCarroll, who was running the show, turned around to us and came up to us privately. And he said, "Before I introduce you guys, quick question: what's your genre?"
And they're like,
I'm like, that should be something important that we should know about ourselves. And I think the best thing to call our concoction is alternative. But me being a cocky idiot, I went Bob. And he literally turned around and was like, "What?" And then Sam, just having no filter, was like, "He said Bob." And the guy was like, "Bob," and I was like, "No, funk rock alternative, something like that." Because one thing that we always have is that every single one of our songs you can dance to, and
that is true.
we always go with the idea in the writing the song. It could be any style, it could be any genre, but it needs to be two things. First of all, it needs to be heavy and in your face and loud, and second of all, you need to dance to it. Because we love like heavy rock songs, especially very emo, emotional rock songs or mosh pit bangers and stuff like that. I just want people to groove. I just want people to get up and dance. Like if we're playing a gig, which we've had before, and just looking up and seeing people banging their heads or grooving or moving away, that's the most. I think that's the best thing.
that is the best thing. So since we're on the subject of gigs, I'd love to talk about gig memories. Best gigs you've been to, worst gigs you've been to, venues you love, venues you hate. I don't mind. This can be a very broad question, but it's to get people back in the swing of gigs.
Oh, we would love to get back.
Yes,
I mean,
we're worst. So we'll go.
I wouldn't say we had a bad one.
We haven't had a bad experience, but no, we have had one bad experience. Our very, very first gig. Yes.
Well, I mean,
American Bar.
yeah, that was still a good gig though.
It was still
One
a
thing
good
about
gig.
this gig is, even though we were like, we were not sleeping until 1 a.m. before the gig, and we're like so pumped into it. And then there's me washing dishes, and I literally just cut my hand really, really bad, very bad. Like,
his picking hand, and I mean, he's like, I come downstairs.
I had to go to the hospital and actually get stitches. It was I was in the cast there for like 3 months, but the same day I went to the hospital, got it stitched up, just real quick, and I still played the gig.
Yeah, there's literally a video out there that's like 20 minutes long of us playing a gig at the American
I'm
Bar.
literally there with the cast going. I nearly died.
The worst thing about it, I think, is a really gross detail, but the cast is white and it goes slightly more and more red throughout the video because he's just playing away. Like we literally come back into the house at 7 in the morning, and I'm like, "Bart, first things first, before we go back to sleep for about 2-3 hours, play bass." I plays it. I'm like,
Right, we're sweet.
Right, we're sweet. Right, go to sleep. Get like 2-3 hours sleep before Sam comes over for our practice, and we're good. But then the American Bar, we went there, and we thought that we were getting the sound guy, and the person who was setting up the gig,
I was the sound guy.
he was the sound guy because the person who was setting up the gig at the time, don't mention. We went, and the person was setting it up. We came with a few bands. We came with Sega guys and Chicago Typewriter, who were both filled with amazing musicians. Paul Swan, Matt from Chicago Typewriter, Ryan as well, who's in the Guinness Book of Records. All these amazing guys that we got to meet and jam out with and have a really good time with, and as well as put an amazing gig out where we had a good turnout. The worst part, I think, was that the sound was whack. and especially Bart was trying to be up on the sound table and try and work with what he had. There was still so much feedback, and there was still so much just everything that can go awry with the sound.
Well, I think it was more of lack of experience and lack of preparation
Yeah.
for it.
Because we went to a gig thinking there was a sound guy, and the person turned around and was like, "No, you're the sound guy." And Bart was like, "What?" We were so pissed off. We were like, "Are you serious?" And she's like, this person was like, "Yeah, you're getting the gig for free. You don't have to pay for the venue. So you get to bring your own sound guy." I'm like, "I wish you told us this a week in advance." But all right, okay, sound. But that's the only bad gig experience.
But it still wasn't a bad gig. It was
Yeah.
still people really loved it. People really enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
think we've done a few fuck ups on this. Yeah, whenever we were starting a song, I started it on the wrong note. I was like, oh, okay, start again, and
literally
just worked it out again.
loud went start again.
And then the funny thing about that, people went around to me and was like, "Did you guys do that on purpose?" I was like, "Nope."
No. Our best gig though, but to talk about best gig experience was our last one actually, that we had back in March 2020. God, it feels such a long time away.
It is such a long time away.
Yeah, a long time ago. Oh my god, it feels like history.
Mm.
But we played a gig that a friend of ours, Alex Close, set up for Breakout Music in Cuckoo. And we played with some amazing bands that night. We played with Paper Tigers, Swan Monkey, and there was another one, but I can't remember the name of. And we were the first band to open up. And you know, being the opening band is always a stereotype. We're not going to get a good crowd because we're the first opening band. There won't be that many people. But luckily enough, we get up at 9, and just this huge, massive crowd of people in the upstairs room of Cuckoo appears out of thin air. Around about like 40, 50 people in this small
I
little.
think even more.
Probably even more.
Because there's people sitting at the back as well that we didn't see.
So I ran to the bathroom right before we were about to get up stage because I'm a diva, and I came back, ran up on stage, got my guitar on me. We're like, right, we're ready to go, we're ready to go. I looked up, only about 20 people. We started playing our first song. Haven't looked up yet, because I'm just singing in the mic and the lights shining in my eyes. I can't see anything. And then we get into our third song, and I just look out at the crowd, and there's about 50 people just grooving and nodding their head. Even people we haven't even seen before, just dancing away. Because it's a fun thing to see your friends and your family go to your gigs and dance around because they're supporting you because they have to, because of your friends and family. But having random strangers enjoy the music as well that we can see live, it just blows us away. It's like, wow, we're infecting other people. What the hell? Okay, maybe we are good. And I had just finished getting with singing lessons and stuff before all of it had to get closed down because I wouldn't consider myself a singer. And it's been a long, treacherous journey for me to become a singer. But my voice was on point that night. And people were coming up to me and being like, "Oh, your fucking voice was fantastic." And we got off stage and looked at each other and was like, "We need to do this again. We need to do this." That was insane.
And we didn't.
Yeah.
Yet. We're working on that. We're going to get back. Everything is fine. But that's so crazy because actually I interviewed Michael from Paper Tigers a few months back, and one of the main points we talked about in that interview is the importance of supporting the local support act, because you never know, that could be the band that changes your life. So it's mad that you guys supported them in a gig that actually was fully attended. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. They put on a fantastic, amazing gig that night.
All the bands were absolutely unreal.
Unreal.
It's just,
and for the bands to turn around to us and be like, "You guys were amazing too," and we were like, "But we were the support act. We're the shit one, and you liked us." Let's go cry in the bathroom. This emotion, people like us. It was just, and even the response that we've got for releasing "You Should," it bodes really well for the live gigs that we're gonna have, because we're having people sharing our stuff that we thought they'd never share, because we, every single local band within Belfast is a very tightly knit community. Everyone knows everyone, but all three of us were so under the radar and no one knows us that when we released "You Should," people were like, "Oh, who the hell are these wankers? What? Who are these guys? What? This is insane." And we kind of released 2 songs a while ago, and they were kind of like demos for us to try and get our get our gears going and getting the oil pumping.
which we took down because we realized that we can improve quality
Yep.
tenfold
Yeah, and
of them, and they're too good songs to just leave as they are.
Okay.
Yep.
And so yeah,
just kind of re-record them, and we kind of changed a lot of things about them because we were still messing about with who we are, and the two songs were very, very different. One was complete funk, a little bit of rock, and one was just heavy metal. And we were like, we need to figure out our sound here. And since we've like taken them down and changed them and implemented our style into it, which is more funky and more heavy and more groovy, we've improved upon them.
Yeah.
Especially as all the newer songs that we have. So having a gig again will be very refreshing. It'll be very fun, especially that people kind of know us now. To a little bit, I don't want to toot my trumpet by saying that, but like it's very exciting. And especially having so much like help and support from amazing musicians already in Belfast, like John Quinn, like Crony and No, like bands like Reese Ajaro, like bands like Aeons, like Ian, the drummer from Aeon, sharing our stuff, or the bass player from Winona Bleach, Carl Gilmore, who's an amazing bass player, sharing our stuff. It's just like, oh my god, okay, people know us and like us. This is great.
Which is what brings us on to the final question, which is local bands you would recommend.
Yeah.
okay.
So I'll go with bands, and if you want to take artists, because there's definitely some artists which we are absolutely adore, but bands to look out for in Belfast. One is Reese Ajaro. Reese Ajaro is an amazing, like, very heavy, very alternative three-piece band. They have got a great combination of rock genres. It's Martin, David, and Ewan. They are the old three members of Surf Green. So they're literally just deconstructed Surf Green and reset themselves up as this new band, and they released an EP during lockdown, which was absolutely amazing. I think the EP was called Stop and Stare, and they released a song called Separation before that, and I heard it, and I was like, okay, I'm really pumped to see where these guys go, because it was very different. Surf Green was like more pop punk, and then they released this heavy alternative rock track and metal tracks, and we were like, whoa, what the hell? These guys are insane. As well as Aeons released a new song back in lockdown called Smile, which is fucking fantastic as well. And as well as that, Winona Bleach released a new song. So definitely Winona Bleach, Aeons, and Reese Ajaro. There's been a couple of bands that have went quiet for a while since they released an EP, one of which is Fake Flirtations. They released an EP right about the start of lockdown, which I fucking adored. And a band which is getting new stuff ready, Valium. Valium released an EP about 2 years ago, and that was unreal, Living the Lightning. And now they've released like little teasers and photos of themselves saying that they're going to be creating new songs and stuff like that, which I'm very hopeful for. But definitely the biggest one to look out for is Reese Ajaro, I think, and some of the stuff they're going to be coming out with, because they only have about 3 songs now. But whatever they're going to be doing, I know it's going to be good. I'm very hopeful for it.
They're also working very closely with Daniel Kiln as well.
Yeah.
Who we also went to record with. So all 4 of them, I have no doubt they're gonna come out with something
incredible,
far from expectation.
Yeah. Artists though. Oh, we know a lot. John Quinn, Crowan.
Just literally behind you right there is the recording studio that I use for
behind the Mac, not behind you. Like all of a sudden, the studio appears behind you
in
your room, like magic.
In which we recorded Coincidental for his Rule of 3 and his new single War on My Turf.
Which, but by the way, fair folks, like they're amazing. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I am not secretly a John Quinn fan. Like full blown cheerleader. Like the poor man to be getting tagged in posts at least once a week. Like,
we've seen. I love the wee man. It's just anytime. As I say, he was here today.
Yeah.
Till what?
Technically today.
I don't know when he left.
I don't know when he left.
I wait it out.
Yeah.
Um,
But like he's coming in here recording new stuff, just always on it because every single member that lives in this house, that is part of like the TK crew, the
Mhm.
Tribal King crew, kind of adds their own little piece of the puzzle to the TK sound.
and the energy is absolutely unreal.
So when
Yeah.
John came in, he was like, "Right, let's get going."
The
Let's
fun thing, we also
yeah.
from our first gig, we mentioned Psychic Guys. The drummer that used to be in Psychic Guys is also now our roommate as well. So it's
And-
just as you said, you know, you meet a band one time and it just, you know, it just sticks.
Yeah.
You know, and
Paul-
then we
Paul Swan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
also one, and then we met him. We met him, and then it kind of we didn't even get in touch
Yeah.
after. It just kind of stopped because just something didn't click. But then a year and a half after,
During COVID.
we actually realized who each of us are, and we were just like, whoa, where the fuck have we done
Yeah,
this
like
before?
we clicked so much. Like the guy moved in, and literally every time he walks into the room,
Literally
he-
the day he stepped in
oh,
to this house, he moved in. Like
Yeah.
it's, we
And,
have
like,
that joke.
every time he comes into this room, or every time he sits down with guitar and bass, you pay attention
Yeah.
because the guy, I like to consider myself like a very instrumental musician, a very creative musician, especially writing songs. This guy is next to none. Paul Swan will literally sit down with a bass or guitar, or sit down with a computer, and you leave him for an hour. You come back, and he will have a symphony. And you're like, what did you do when we were gone? He goes by the name of Primoid, but some of the stuff that he has prepared to release and some of the stuff that he's got written, along with John Quinn, or some of the stuff that he's going to be playing with us with TK, is absolutely like, it's jaw dropping, as well as an artist that came through here. Funny, funny to say, it was a bit unknown.
Crown the Unknown.
Crone the Unknown, who came in here and just
Who both of
absolutely-
us, Paul and John Quinn, and also our mate Milo, who made all the beats for our roommate Milo as well, who makes all the beats for everybody. Absolutely amazing artist as well.
Yeah.
We all really closely worked on his EP in here, and it's just
Yeah,
I don't want to toot my own, you know.
yeah,
but
toot your own horn, toot your trumpet, toot your horn. But the
it
EP
sounds amazing. Like I
is-
can't stop listening to it, even though we've made it
yeah,
technically in here. It's just on repeat in here, and
Yeah.
we're just
it's the fact that we've got such a presence of hip hop coming out of this house, as well as now rock with Voodoo Chief, and I think that's just an amazing thing to be doing. Is that we have two very distinct genres coming out of the household with everyone that's in it, and that's why we're begging Sam to move in with us, but he never will. He never will. He's a little homebird, but yeah. So we every time Sam comes into the room or Sam comes over, we're constantly writing new songs, and every time artists like that, John Quinn, Crone the Unknown, Young Cashling to an extent, but every artist or customer that comes in here, because they are technically customers, that we work with, is them becomes more than the customer. They become a close friend because they keep coming back and they keep coming over with new ideas or beats that they've got from other beat makers.
that's because we create a home vibe in here. Like
Yeah.
people come in here and it's not
You could say
come
it's-
and record and piss off. No, it's just
Yeah.
we're coming in and we're putting the best of ourselves into them.
Yeah.
So whenever they walk out of here, they just go, "What just happened?" It
Yeah,
just-
they're like, "What? You? I was literally possessed there for a second, what, for like literally 4 hours. What did we create?" It was like, "Oh no, what did you create?" It was like, "No, you did this to me." Like literally, you could say that we're a tribe. Would you? That we're a magic tribe. So when we all just get together, people come over and they're like, "Oh, that was great. That was great, crack." And we're like, "Yeah, you're not leaving." They're like, "What?" Like,
No.
"Oh, you're making like 4
You're
or 5."
staying until this is perfect.
Yeah, you're making 4 or 5 songs. You're gonna make an EP you didn't even have planned. We're gonna boost you so much. Literally, every one that comes through here is just they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm a musician and you know it's going great and stuff like that." And then we're like, "No, you're a fucking artist. You've got so much amazing music to create." And they come out of here so confident. They're like, "Yeah, I can do this. I don't care. I can do whatever I want." And it's just that idea of that, like you said, that family vibe of just boosting people and getting people to join us and come together. It's it's very inspiring to see that we can have that effect on people. And even Reese Ajaro came through here, and another band came through here, American Guinea Pig, and we were showing them Voodoo Chief stuff and on like all the hip hop stuff that Bart was having a hand in, and everyone just had the same reaction. They were always just blown away, and they were just very impressed because every time that someone comes into the house, Bart has a famous line where he's like, "Oh yeah, I own the studio," and you think, "Oh, it's a little laptop with a little input and a little microphone, and that's it." And when you come to the house, you're like, "Oh no, this is a full show. You've got a vocal booth that's completely soundproof. You've got two massive subwoofers. You've got a huge monitor, a huge TV screen that's connected to another TV screen in the booth. About how many guitars? How many guitars is in this house?
Million.
Yeah. How much is that? I don't know. I can't count. I'm a musician. I'm not smart.
I can only count to 4.
I can only count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like bass guitars, and there's a saxophone. There's pianos. Literally, we live and breathe music, even to the point that they were writing the song, and I got up at like 2:30, walked in the room, groggy, tired, and was like,
wrote a hook just like that. We were like, what the?
Yeah, I just wrote a hook. Like, here's the hook, by the way, for the song. Like, in my Batman pajamas, and they're like, "Paddy, Jesus, take a break." And I'm like, no, that's the hook. See you later. Right, going back to sleep. It's very fun, and it's very enjoyable, as well as we treat it like it's a fucking job at the end of the day. And we love our passion. We love our craft. Like we said at the start of the interview, we love our craft and everything that we've gathered throughout the years of us being musicians. But at the end of the day, it needs to be like a machine, and we cannot stop, and we need to keep that pumping. And the fact that Sam, who is a dope, because we all have personas in the band. I'm the sassy queen. I'm the front woman, obviously, and I'm a diva. Sam is the little cute one. That he's the Ringo of the band. And everyone's like, "Oh my God, Sam's so cute, he's so sweet." And then Bart's like, the guy you don't mess with. The guy that's wearing sunglasses in the corner, that's quiet, with like a massive beard, drives a motorcycle, and wears leather jackets. He's very much the easy top. Yeah, so we all have personas. And like, I'm the one wearing like eyeliner and painting my nails, and Sam's like, "Hi, I'm just here." And all cute.
What the fuck is up?
Yeah, so the fact that Sam can keep up with us, and like he on the outside, he seems like a small innocent child. But see, once you get him into the studio, he's like, "Right, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that."
Oh, he's a perfectionist.
We are all perfectionists.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we kind of apply that to artists that come through here. That we're like, your music is great, but we're gonna be brutally honest with you, it can be better. And
and I think that's important. I don't think enough people give constructive criticism anymore. Everyone's just taught to corral each other into believing they're wonderful. Thing is, not everybody is wonderful. Like, it's just, everybody could use a bit of constructive criticism at some point. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah, because like all the bands that we listen to are fantastic, but there has been definitely some musicians that came through here that we've definitely had to make malleable and mold them into something.
But I think that we have that opportunity because people come in here, and because we do have I do have a recording studio. We do have a recording studio.
Yeah.
And we're musicians as well. People actually go like, okay, I can take their opinions on board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not like they're just talking for the sake of it. Because anytime someone comes in here, like I listen to the ideas, we listen to the tracks, and was like, okay, this is what you need. This is will make this ascend to the level that you'll just go.
And that's
wow.
When it
we
comes...
cried during recording of Post Malone's song because it was just it's
it
beautiful.
And that's kind of like the idea that the creative process that we have for Voodoo Chief is that all three of us come in with all three different ideas from different musical backgrounds, and we kind of strip them away and forge them to the proper essence it needs to be for all three of us to combine. Because like I say that I'm like the theoretical music theory nerd of the band, but Bart has such an amazing input with bass lines and song structures. Sam has an amazing input with structures as well, and we can all critique each other, and we can all take it on board, and we go, okay, maybe do that, maybe do this, maybe do that, and it's just that same idea, that hive mind, like you said, of just being like, okay, can we all agree that this works? This works, and like we've heard bands turn around and be like, oh yeah, 4 to 5 hours to write a song, kind of agree. It takes us 10 minutes. And we're like, yep, do that, do that, do that. Does it
I
work?
love it.
Does it sound nice? I play the thing, make the guitar go blur blur ding. Right, that's it. It's like, right, go ahead, hit record. Boop, there we go, new song.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to see what you guys have to release yourselves as Voodoo Chief, but also to hear everything that's coming out of your studio, because like John Quinn is a shining example of what you're capable of as a group. Like, it's phenomenal. Now, before I stop recording, is there anything you'd like to add to the interview? Obviously, everyone at home, you should check out Voodoo Chief, but...
I've made this joke so many times.
I know.
It wasn't even on purpose.
I know.
People ask me, "Is like, did you actually name that song for to do that on purpose for a promo?" And I was like, "No, I wrote it when I was 16, dude. I didn't have a clue." Like literally every story I saw, people were like, "You should go listen to it," and I'm like, "Oh god, I made that joke once."
Which is such a gig. Like,
yeah, it's like everyone's getting on the same joke. It's brilliant. One thing I'll add is that the lyrical content, which is just 100% me, and it's very enjoyable, but it's very fun because we are a heavy funk rock groovy band, but the lyrics are so dark and they're so messed up. And there's new artists that I will bring to mind. They're big artists that have inspired me heavily. Hosier and Joshua Homme. Joshua Homme says that he needs a song to be three things. When he writes a song, it needs to be dark, you need to dance to it, or you need to fuck to it. You need to make children to it. And I'm like, okay, I like that. I'll go in with that idea of making instrumental music like that. But what I do have lyrics, and Hosier said something brilliant, that he wants to sing the most awful, horrible thing beautifully. And I'm like, you know what? I want to sing the most awful, horrible things funky and get people dancing. And this idea of people dancing and grooving to these songs and being like, I don't even know what the lyrics are. And I'm like, if only if you had any idea. Because I'm very, very politically charged and them two hate it. And I'm like, I want to write about so many different things, especially within the ideas of relationships and power dynamics between people at a very like psychological level. That I'm like, yeah, make the song really heavy and really dark. And I read the lyrics out to Sam and Bart, and they look at me and they're like, are you okay? Like, are you going through some stuff, dude?
I know.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. Don't you worry. And it's like, what's the song about? It's just about peer pressure, man. All right, okay. What's the song about? This doesn't sound that good. I was like, oh, just about having like depression and suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. I'm like, but the song's funky, Patrick. Are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine.
But it sounds so happy.
But I think that also not only with the dancey aspect of it, with the funk aspect to it, it also adds a lyrical content and also adds a message to it.
Yeah.
Which is which not a lot of people actually do.
Yeah. Literally, fucking ZZ Top write a song about dressing in a suit and being a well sharp dressed man, and I'm over here writing songs about societal impacts of gender expression and the harassment of women within society and stuff like that, and making very heavy political songs. And I love it because it gives people another layer of to connect behind the song, because some of my favorite rock songs I've listened to, I went back and listened to the lyrical content and the message behind it and went, whoa, this is actually really dark, this is messed up. And I love that idea of songwriting, and you're very much on board of that. Sam's very much on board of that, because we're not just a gimmicky funk rock band. There is a musical songwriting presence to it that I try to put in, because growing up with artists like Led Zeppelin, growing up with artists like B.B. King, growing up with artists from the 80s like Robert Smith, or listening to give me a second, brain stop, hit pause. Morrissey's band, the Smiths.
The
Listen to
Smiths.
bands like the Smiths. and then listen to stuff like Queens of Stone Age. Queens of Stone Age songs are very dark, but they're very groovy. And it's like, why should I just write a rock song and just sing about how I drink Jack Daniels and ride a motorcycle? Let's actually talk about something very deep and very scarring and something very vulnerable, which allows people, I think people like that about us, that they're like, oh, they're singing about something very, very vulnerable. So that adds another layer of connection into us, which I kind of like and I really enjoy. So I think that's one thing to add is that just listen to the lyrics, because the message behind it is very strong and very heavy. So yeah, and that's one thing we really enjoy doing. And I think another thing to put in is that we're not stopping. We have already, and this is the first time we're going to say this, is on this interview, an interview exclusive. We've already recorded a new song, and we have already got that locked and loaded in the back pocket, ready to release it. Well, not ready to release it just yet, but I mean, like, literally 2 more days of work on it, send it off to Daniel, and then bam, we have something new. And we're saying it on the interview here, and we're not going to say anything else about it.
I love it. I am so excited to hear what's coming next, because literally it's been such a joy meeting you, and it's been so nice connecting with everyone that I've had the privilege of getting to know in Belfast in this time, to the time where I can actually travel up to you guys and say well in person. That'll be super exciting.
I'll say on that, the door is always open in there. Like,
thank you.
Anyone, it's the...
Yeah, they even get a Viking Promotions Tribal King podcast collaboration. Imagine. Pretty good. Yeah, so the door's always open. With a studio tour will always be in mind, and I mean it's only 5 minutes long, but it's still the end of the day. This room, there you go. You want coffee? You want a cup of tea? Get yourself home.
That's Patrick. They would poke him with a stick. He makes riffs.
Yeah, it's like, Patrick, new riff, please. Yeah, give me a da-da-da-da-da.
I arrive in a studio and I'm always the one making everyone coffee, so I will make myself right at home when I come up. Guys, it's been a huge pleasure. I'm going to stop recording now and we can go back to our chats.
Okay, perfect.